Joining us now is David Freddoso with the Washington Examiner and author of The Case Against Barack Obama. David, thank you for joining us today.
Good afternoon. Thanks so much for having me.
David, you're probably writing the sequel already.
Well,
or maybe you're done.
Well, no, we're still going to have to see where things go from here, but definitely the president is helping out by creating a lot of a very interesting plot already.
A supplement, anyway, I think is probably in order, but you need to update it every day.
Yeah, that's right. That is correct.
He's on the trail. We're picking up here during the show that we knew, I guess, since last night, kind of late last night, that they say, well, they've made a little breakthrough in the Senate Finance Committee. We've got some new scoring. Boy, they can score in a hurry. Only $900 billion now. They say this thing's going to cost. Over in the House now, we got just a few minutes ago that in Henry Waxman's committee, the Energy and Commerce Committee, that the Blue Dogs and the Liberals have come to terms. What are you hear? What's going on? Do you think is it a simultaneous move toward really getting something done, or is it to be expected?
I think you're seeing two different things here going on, and Fred, as you know, obviously the Senate and the House work very differently, and the bills that the Senate and the House are considering are very different. In the Senate, it seems like as though a lot of these senators have simply written the president out of the process and have decided that they're going to go for a stripped-down version of this that doesn't include the public option and doesn't include a lot of the things that President Obama wanted, including the employer mandate to cover, which is something that the president actually campaigned on. Meanwhile, in the House, I'm kind of surprised that they are putting a bill out there. They're going to vote it out of committee this week and then not vote on it till September. What that means is that all throughout the month of August, while Congress is gone, Republicans are going to be picking over this bill and criticizing everything in it, and the congressmen, when they're back home in their districts, don't even have the defense of, I'll make sure that doesn't end up in the final bill. I think it might be a real strategic mistake.
I didn't know that was the deal. So they're not going to bring it to the floor.
Right, they're going to vote it out of committee, is what I saw in roll call just a couple minutes ago.
Well, let me tell you what I think happened. I think these Blue Dogs says, okay, we'll go along with this to get it out of committee if you will agree not to bring it up. Then they can go home and say, I voted for it to move it along in the process, but that doesn't mean in the end that I'm going to vote for it before I hear from all of my constituents.
No, and that is entirely possible, but at the same time, they have to say, but you still voted for the thing to come out of committee.
That's right.
Are you going to support this bill on the floor now that it contains X, Y, and Z? That's always really dangerous when you have concrete legislation.
That's right. I mean, it's a fig leaf, but you know that they're getting their arms twisted off. So this is a way that they can please the leadership to a point and still leave a little bit of wiggle room. I don't think it's much wiggle room at all if it comes out with a public plan. I have no idea what Henry Waxman may have compromised on. Are you hearing anything about that?
There were several different demands that the Blue Dogs have, and I don't know exactly what the compromise involves. Basically, having a vote in the committee on an amendment that they are putting together that contains the changes they want. So it's not necessarily that Waxman is agreeing to these changes, but effectively they're going to end up in the bill because Mike Ross from Arkansas, anyway, says that that this amendment will have the votes on committee to pass. So that's just a complicated way of saying it looks like Ross walking out of meetings and all the sort of outspoken talk he's had of opposing several things in this bill have really had an effect and have essentially forced the bill to be shaped a lot more the way that he wants it to be shaped.
What do you think the experience is going to be for members of Congress as they go back in August and talk to their constituents?
Well, there's a new poll out today that says that right now a plurality of Americans oppose this bill. It's 47 to 42. And the month of August, it's only going to get worse. I don't see how it gets any better. I'm reminded a lot of President Bush's going around the country campaigning for Social Security reform. It was an idea that was sort of controversial, but the longer he spent on it and the more time the Democrats had to hammer him, the more that they were able to drive his numbers down because of it. And that was the beginning of the 2006 election cycle, you'll remember. It was really the beginning of the slide of his presidency to the point where he'd eventually, for various reasons, he'd become very unpopular. For President Obama, August is going to be a rotten month. He's really just going to get hammered on this over and over again, and members of Congress are going to be going back home to people who are really worried about, hey, is my health care suddenly going to change? Are my premiums going to skyrocket? Is the government going to, force the prices higher through the meddling they're going to do?
Yeah, and he's going to be having to prove a negative because there are a lot of negatives out there as people get in and read these bills. I think just being totally objective about it, when you go about as a president to in any way touch entitlements or in any way try to make a major transformation, you've got to have some cover from the other side or they'll beat you to death because it's too vulnerable. There are too many things out there to point to. And in this case, of course, I think, they're terrible. But just objectively speaking, the deck is stacked against the president on this. I think he sees it. That's why he's out there every day. Have you ever seen or heard of a president who's in the face of the American people this much?
Well, again, I guess I'd have to compare it to President Bush promoting the Social Security reform, but of course Bush didn't get as much coverage because he wasn't as adored by the media as President Obama is, and that's a phenomenon that continues that I wrote some about in the case against Barack Obama. But
yeah,
he is really in the face. Well, that's what he told people: get in their face, right?
So. Yep, that's what he's doing. David Freddoso, the Washington Examiner. Thank you very, very much for that insight.